Don't just listen, transform. Apply Hill's teachings today with the first link in the description.
There comes a moment in every life when the road divides, one path leading to destiny, the other to regret. And I tell you plainly, most men miss that moment, not because fate denied them, not because they lacked talent, but because they hesitated, they drifted. They told themselves they would decide tomorrow, and when the door of destiny swung open, they were not ready to walk through. This is why I call this your final warning. You are not promised endless chances. Opportunity appears, and if you are unprepared, it vanishes and it does not return. You may tell yourself there will be another chance, perhaps, but not the same one. The same door does not open twice. Look around you. How many men in their 50s and 60s whisper the words, if only I had started, if only I had spoken, if only I had trusted myself. Those two words are the gravestone of wasted lives. They are the cruel price of hesitation. Ask yourself now, do you want to join them? Do you want to reach the end and realize that destiny once called your name, but you refused to answer? That the turning point appeared before you, but you let it pass? That your moment was here and you lost it? I will not leave you with warning alone. In the next few moments, I will show you exactly how men miss their final chance and how you can make certain you do not. I will give you the law that separates those who drift into regret from those who step into destiny. By the end of this message, you will know the path that prevents, if only, from ever being written upon your life. Carnegie, Ford, Edison, Lincoln, each of them stood at the edge of a moment when failure seemed certain and fear pressed them to wait. They did not wait. They moved with definiteness. And because they acted, history remembers them. Had they delayed, they would have been forgotten. Their secret is not luck. It is the law of decisiveness. That law is what you are about to hear. So listen closely, not as though this were one more speech, but as though your future self were crying out to you across the years, begging you not to waste this moment. Hear it as though your unborn victories, your unseen fortune, your hidden greatness were calling your name. Hear it as though infinite intelligence itself were whispering, now, act now, trust now. Because if you continue, you will discover how to make sure this is not another passing inspiration, but the exact moment you turn from drifting to destiny. And if you stop listening, you may never hear it again. And this is your final warning, and within the next few moments, you will learn how to obey it. Opportunity is not a constant guest. It is a fleeting visitor, knocking once upon the door of a man's mind, then passing on if unwelcomed. Those who whisper tomorrow deceive themselves, for tomorrow never returns in the same form. The chance once neglected becomes a ghost, reminding the dreamer of what he might have been, had he acted when the hour was ripe. I tell you with certainty, life is not measured in years, but in seized moments. A man may live 70 years and still have no life to show if he spends those years drifting. Another may live 30 years, but with definiteness and bold action, he leaves behind an empire. It is not length of time, but the courage to seize the door when it opens that measures true life. Consider R.U. Darby. He pursued gold with zeal, struck a vein, then lost it. Discouraged, he abandoned the field, selling his equipment to a junk dealer. That man, less educated but more persistent, consulted an expert and discovered the gold was only 3 feet beyond where Darby had quit. Millions were lost because one man surrendered too soon. Think on this parable, for hesitation robbed Darby of fortune. He later redeemed himself in insurance, applying persistence. Yet the first lesson remains clear. Hesitation has cost more fortunes than poverty ever did. Poverty may be temporary, but hesitation fixes itself into habit. Habit turns into fate, and fate into the sorrowful whisper, if only. The devil, as I wrote in my dialogue, traps drifting men in his net. He confessed that his chief weapon is not disaster, but indecision. For when a man refuses to think for himself, refuses to act on a clear purpose, he becomes the plaything of circumstance. He drifts where the current carries him, never where destiny might have led him. Affirm with me now, I act at once, I do not delay. I step into destiny without hesitation. Say it aloud, not once, but until it roots itself into the soil of your subconscious mind. For every command you repeat with faith becomes law to that inner mind, and that law shapes the life you live. Delay is erased only by such repeated resolve. Most men never awaken to the truth that hesitation is more fatal than criticism or poverty. Poverty is the lack of money. Criticism is the opinion of others. Both can be overcome, but hesitation is the refusal to act when opportunity calls, and that refusal hardens into a lifelong condition. That man never reaches riches, for he never begins. I have watched men of great talent starve while lesser men of courage prospered. The difference was not knowledge nor even skill, but the ability to decide and act when the hour struck. Fortune favors the bold, because infinite intelligence demands definiteness before it moves. The wavering man receives nothing, for the universe cannot respond to uncertainty. Look about you at the graveyards of wasted lives. How many headstones bear silent witness to hesitation? How many men and women carried visions that could have enriched the world but never planted them in action? They carried their ideas to the grave because they said tomorrow. And tomorrow, like a thief, robbed them of their chance. Life is not kind to the drifter. It sweeps him into the current of mediocrity. He becomes a servant to the man who had courage to decide. He spends his years envying the decisive, consoling himself with alibis. If I had the chance, if I had the capital, if only I had begun sooner. But all his excuses cannot change the fact. He hesitated. Let me impress upon your mind a truth carved by experience. Hesitation becomes habit. Each time you delay, you train your will to weaken. Each time you excuse yourself, you prepare yourself for failure. Habit shapes character, and character shapes destiny. Therefore, hesitation is not a single lost moment, but the gradual forfeiture of your entire future. I remind you again of the devil's admission. He does not capture decisive minds, only drifting ones. His legions of fear, poverty, and doubt prey upon those who cannot say yes with conviction. If you wish to outwit him, you must act. You must declare your aim and strike at once, lest you become another drifting soul lost to his hypnotic rhythm. Reflect now. What opportunities has life already placed before you? Which doors have you let close? You may never retrieve them, but you may seize the present one. Every day offers a chance, though not the same chance. The lesson is not to mourn the past, but to recognize the urgency of the present hour. This door will not open twice. The world remembers men like Edison, Carnegie, and Ford, not because they were free of failure, but because they refused to hesitate. Edison failed thousands of times, but never delayed his next experiment. Carnegie seized my imagination with a single challenge, and I acted. Ford ignored his engineers and built his V8. Their greatness was decisiveness. Hear this warning: the man who waits becomes the man who regrets. You may avoid criticism by waiting. You may preserve temporary comfort by hesitating. But at the end of your days, you will pay the cruelest price: regret. Better to have failed with decision than to rot in mediocrity with hesitation. Better to have seized than to have delayed. Every great fortune began with a definite chief aim. Every empire of wealth, every monument of achievement, every name remembered by history is the result of a mind that knew what it wanted and refused to surrender until it was attained. Indefiniteness is the common lot of the masses. Definiteness is the rare possession of leaders. I know this truth because it was planted into my heart by Andrew Carnegie himself. When I was a young man uncertain of my future, he tested me with a challenge. Would I devote 20 years of my life to organizing the laws of success? Would I sacrifice comfort and endure poverty to bring this philosophy to the world? I answered yes. That decision shaped my destiny. It gave me a definite chief aim that burned like fire within me, driving me through disappointments and failures. Had I refused, I would have become just another lawyer, forgotten by the world. Instead, because I accepted Carnegie's challenge, I brought forth the philosophy that has enriched millions. Such is the power of definiteness. Henry Ford demonstrated it with greater force than words could describe. His engineers insisted it was impossible to build an 8-cylinder motor in one block. They argued, they complained, they presented their doubts, but Ford gave them one command: build it. Month after month, year after year, they failed, yet Ford's order did not change. He knew what he wanted. At last, after many attempts, the engineers succeeded. The V8 engine, born of one man's definiteness, transformed the automobile industry and multiplied Ford's fortune. Had he been vague, had he yielded to the counsel of impossibility, the invention would have been lost. His wealth was not created by genius alone, but by definiteness of purpose, pursued with persistence. Affirm this now. I know what I want. I demand it of life. I refuse to drift. Say it not once, but daily, until your mind believes it as truth. The subconscious responds to definiteness. It obeys commands clearly spoken with faith. A vague wish is ignored, but a definite demand, backed by burning desire, stirs infinite intelligence to action. Vagueness is the silent destroyer of destinies. Ask the average man what he desires, and he hesitates. He wants more money, perhaps. He wants happiness, perhaps. He wants to be successful. But what does success mean to him? He cannot tell you. He drifts from one job to another, one ambition to another, never deciding, never advancing. Such men become clay in the hands of circumstance. They are pushed by fear, pulled by opportunity, tossed about by every shifting condition. Because they have no definite purpose, they fall prey to the definite purposes of others. The man without a plan becomes a servant to the man who has one. Life will not honor vagueness. Contrast this with Abraham Lincoln. He failed in business. He was defeated for office. He suffered ridicule and despair. Yet he never lost sight of one definite aim: to preserve the Union. That purpose carried him through every setback. And when the nation tottered on the edge of dissolution, it was his definiteness that steadied the course and saved a people. It is not genius alone that lifts a man. It is not even hard labor alone. It is definiteness of purpose that gives meaning to genius and direction to labor. Without it, effort is scattered and wasted. With it, even modest talent becomes powerful. A single drop of water is weak. A river channeled becomes a force that carves valleys. I command you now, write down your definite chief aim. Put it on paper, clear and specific. Not, I want wealth, but I will accumulate a fortune of $100,000 by rendering definite service in my chosen calling. Not, I want happiness, but I will live each day with harmony, faith, and usefulness, creating joy for myself and others. Read this aloud twice daily, once upon rising and once before sleep. As you repeat it, visualize it as already real. See yourself in possession of your aim. Feel the emotions of victory. For repetition with belief imprints itself upon the subconscious, and the subconscious, in turn, influences action, attracts allies, and draws opportunity in harmony with your desire. Do not think this a trivial exercise. I have observed it in the lives of the most successful men. Carnegie himself demanded definiteness from all who worked with him. Edison pursued definite inventions with tireless experiments. Rockefeller set definite goals for oil, and he became the master of fuel. Lincoln had one definite aim, and he preserved a nation. The drifting man is always at the mercy of the decisive. The vague mind is hired cheaply by the definite mind. The world does not reward uncertainty, it rewards purpose. Ask yourself, do you wish to be the servant of other men's plans or the master of your own? Your answer is determined by whether you hold a definite chief aim. Let me warn you, life punishes indecision. It does so by withholding opportunity, by denying riches, by surrounding the drifter with fear. The devil himself confessed in my imaginary interview that drifting is his chief weapon. He snares men by their failure to decide, then leads them through life without purpose until death claims them empty-handed. Infinite intelligence, that great unseen power, does not respond to doubt. It responds to definiteness. Just as the radio station must be tuned to a specific frequency to receive a clear message, so must your mind be tuned to a definite purpose if you wish to receive riches and ideas. Without definiteness, you are like static, noise without power. Affirm again, I know what I want. I demand it of life. I refuse to drift. Make this your creed. Let it govern your thoughts, your actions, your speech. Each day, measure your conduct by this standard. Is what I am doing moving me toward my definite chief aim, or away from it? If away, abandon it. If toward, persist. I have seen men rise from poverty to wealth by this single principle. I have seen failures transformed into leaders because they fixed their gaze upon a definite star. I have seen timid men become bold, lazy men become industrious, all because they discovered what they wanted most and gave themselves wholly to it. This law is universal. Therefore, I say to you, destiny is not written by chance, nor by luck, nor by circumstance. It is written by definiteness. The man who knows what he wants becomes a magnet. Circumstances rearrange themselves. People appear, opportunities unfold. Life bends to the definite demand of a mind that refuses to drift. This is the law of definiteness. Faith is the eternal elixir that gives life to thought, the unseen power that transforms desire into reality. Without faith, the definite chief aim is but a wish. With faith, the aim becomes a command, stamped upon the subconscious mind, which then reaches out through infinite intelligence and gathers the circumstances by which it is made real. I do not speak of faith as a vague hope, nor as a blind belief in luck. I speak of faith as a state of mind created through definiteness and repetition. Faith is born when a thought, spoken aloud with emotion, is impressed again and again upon the subconscious. What is repeated becomes believed, and what is believed becomes acted upon. Thomas Edison is the great example of this law. He failed more than 10,000 times before perfecting the incandescent light. Yet he never said, I failed. He said, I have found 10,000 ways that will not work. His faith was not shaken by defeat. Rather, it grew stronger. He lived in an atmosphere of belief, and that belief gave light to the world. Faith is cultivated by autosuggestion. Every time you repeat a statement to yourself, you are planting a seed in the subconscious mind. If you say with feeling, I am confident, I am courageous, I will succeed, that seed will sprout into action. If you repeat doubt, fear, or weakness, those seeds too will grow. The subconscious accepts whatever is planted. Therefore, I urge you to guard the words you speak and the thoughts you repeat. For every statement becomes law to the subconscious. Say with me, I am a man of faith. I believe in my purpose. I demand riches with persistence. Speak it with conviction, and you will feel your mind respond. Say it daily, and your subconscious will obey. I know this truth intimately, for it revealed itself in the life of my own son. He was born without the ability to hear. Doctors said he would be mute, helpless, destined for dependence. Yet I refused to accept that verdict. I held in my mind the belief that he would speak, that he would live as other boys do, that faith would find a way. I spoke to him as though he could hear. I repeated with conviction that he would develop hearing in some form. I affirmed his strength, his future, his purpose, and through persistence, through the influence of faith impressed upon his subconscious, he learned to hear with the aid of science, and he learned to speak. Faith triumphed over nature. This principle is universal. Fear and faith cannot dwell together in the same mind. Where faith enters, fear departs. Where fear reigns, faith cannot enter. One must dominate. If you would rise to riches, you must drive out fear with repeated affirmations of faith, for the subconscious, once saturated with belief, refuses to tolerate fear. Infinite intelligence responds only to faith-backed definiteness. It does not answer the prayer of doubt, nor the wish of a drifting soul. But it rushes to the command of a man who speaks with belief, who acts as though his purpose were already secured. Such a man becomes irresistible, for he is no longer alone. He is allied with the infinite. Reflect again on Edison. Imagine how the world would have judged him, failing thousands of times. Many laughed at him, many called him a dreamer, many urged him to quit, but his faith drowned their voices. He did not consult their fears, he consulted his belief, and because he believed, he proved that thought, backed by faith, can illuminate nations. You may wonder how to build such faith if you feel weak. The answer is simple. Repeat what you desire daily, with emotion, until you believe. No man is born with unshakable faith. It is cultivated. As muscles grow through exercise, faith grows through repetition. Speak your aim, write it, visualize it. Live as though it were already true. Faith is not idle. It demands action. You cannot affirm belief in riches while living in laziness and expect wealth to come. But when belief saturates your subconscious, action follows naturally. You awaken with energy, you pursue with courage, you persist despite obstacles. Faith translates thought into action, and action into reality. Remember always, fear is the tool of the devil. He confessed to me that fear is his chief weapon. But he also admitted that a mind filled with faith cannot be enslaved. He flees from such minds, for they are beyond his control. Faith is the shield that protects against fear, doubt, and drifting. Without it, you are prey. With it, you are master. Repeat with me again, I am a man of faith. I believe in my purpose. I demand riches with persistence. Say it not timidly, but with fire. Imagine the wealth you desire, the position you seek, the purpose you pursue. Feel it in your heart as though it were already yours. For what the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. I have witnessed faith move men from obscurity to greatness. I have seen it lift the poor into wealth, the timid into leadership, the defeated into triumph. Faith is not partial. It favors no man above another. It responds only to definiteness and repetition. If you persist in believing, the world will eventually bend to your command. Consider again my own life. There were times when discouragement pressed me, when defeat seemed certain. But each time I revived faith by returning to my chief aim, by affirming my purpose, by repeating aloud that I would complete my philosophy of success. That faith carried me through. Without it, I would have been another drifting soul. Faith and doubt are both choices. You may choose to repeat fear, and fear will grow. You may choose to repeat belief, and belief will grow. You cannot escape the law of repetition. Therefore, choose wisely. Feed your subconscious with faith, not fear, for whatever you plant will grow, and you cannot harvest from seeds you did not sow. I say to you now, test this law for yourself. Choose a definite aim. Write it in clear words. Affirm it daily with faith. Visualize it as already true. Persist in this practice, and you will feel the birth of faith within you. That faith will banish fear, energize your actions, attract allies, and open doors you never imagined. This is the law. Indecision is the graveyard of riches. It is the waiting room of failure. It is the silent poison that robs men of opportunity while they still imagine themselves alive. I have studied more than 25,000 people who failed, and I tell you that indecision was the chief weakness which ruined the majority. They wavered, and the chance passed. In contrast, every man who accumulated great fortunes did so by deciding quickly and standing by that decision with persistence. Opportunity does not linger. It whispers once, and the decisive man seizes it. The wavering man consults his fears, waits for permission, asks others if it is safe, and by the time he moves, the prize is gone. The story of United States Steel is a monument to decision. Charles M. Schwab, then a young man, addressed a group of financiers with boldness. He outlined a plan to consolidate steel interests into a single giant. Andrew Carnegie embraced it, and the decision to act on that plan created a fortune of more than $600 million. Had Schwab hesitated, had he sought endless counsel, had he feared criticism, the opportunity would have passed. Instead, he decided quickly, acted firmly, and history recorded his name. That single decision altered the destiny of industry. Such is the power of decision when allied with definiteness and courage. Affirm this with me. I decide quickly. I act firmly. I do not consult fear. Make these words your shield against hesitation, for every time you speak them with faith, you are strengthening your will. The subconscious mind, once trained to respond to decision, carries out your commands without delay. The habit of decisiveness becomes your armor. I know too well the pain of indecision. After years of labor, I found myself stranded in Columbus, Ohio, without funds, without direction, without a plan. I drifted in that state for months, paralyzed by hesitation. I had the knowledge of success principles, yet I did not apply them. My own indecision nearly destroyed me. But one day, in a moment of awakening, I decided I would complete the philosophy of achievement which Carnegie had set before me. I would stop drifting, stop excusing, stop waiting. That single decision changed the entire course of my life. It led to the writing of the philosophy you now hear. Without that decision, I would have perished forgotten. Decision requires courage, and courage is born of faith. You cannot wait until fear departs before you decide. You must decide in the presence of fear, and by deciding you banish fear. The man who waits for perfect certainty never acts. The man who acts in faith creates certainty by his decision. That is the law of life. History remembers decisive men and forgets the hesitant. Lincoln decided to preserve the Union though war and death surrounded him. Washington decided to fight though his troops were cold and starving. Edison decided to pursue the incandescent light though thousands of failures mocked him. Their names are remembered because they acted while others doubted. The wavering man is buried in silence. He may have talents, dreams, ideas, but because he never decides, he leaves no mark. The world does not honor what might have been. It honors only those who said, "I will," and stood by it. Better to decide and fail than to drift and vanish, for even failure teaches and strengthens the decisive. Practice decision in small matters. Choose quickly what you will do each day. Decide swiftly on minor choices, and you will build the muscle of courage for greater ones. Do not let trivial questions linger. Each time you decide promptly, you are training your subconscious to obey. Soon, decision will become natural, and hesitation will flee. Affirm once more, I decide quickly. I act firmly. I do not consult fear. Write these words upon your heart, for in the hour of opportunity, you will not have time to deliberate endlessly. You must act as though infinite intelligence itself were guiding you, and indeed it is. Faith allies with decision to produce power. I urge you to reflect. What decisions have you delayed? What chances have you let slip because you waited too long? You cannot reclaim the past, but you can redeem the present. Decide today what your chief aim is. Decide today what actions you will take. Decide today that hesitation will no longer enslave you. This is your bridge to destiny. Every fortune, every invention, every great movement began with a decision. Carnegie decided to master steel. Ford decided to create a car for the common man. Rockefeller decided to dominate oil. Lincoln decided to preserve the Union. Each decision carved a new path in history. Without decision, their names would be dust. You too must decide. Do not wait for assurance from others. Do not ask the timid for courage. Do not consult your fears. Act as though your destiny depends upon it, for it does. The bridge from desire to destiny is decision. Without crossing it, you will never reach the promised land of riches and achievement. Decision is the spark, but persistence is the flame that sustains it. Many men decide and even decide correctly, but few possess the iron will to persist. They start with fire in their hearts, only to cool when the first obstacle appears. Riches do not yield themselves to the faint of heart. They bow only to those who continue, no matter the cost. Let me warn you plainly, no decision holds its power unless it is enforced by persistence. The world tests every man who declares a great aim. Life asks, how badly do you want it? If your desire weakens at the first sign of resistance, you are unworthy of riches. But if you press on despite defeat, life yields her treasures. Henry Ford knew this truth. He was urged by his advisors to abandon the Model T, to replace it with a new car when profits dipped. They begged him to change. They argued that the public wanted novelty. But Ford's persistence defied them all. He held to his vision, kept his factories producing, and through stubborn faith multiplied his fortune tenfold. R.U. Darby, whom I mentioned earlier, lost millions by stopping 3 feet from gold. But his story did not end there. He later entered the field of insurance, applying the lesson of persistence. Each time a prospect said no, he remembered the mine he abandoned. He vowed never again to stop 3 feet short. In time, he built a vast empire in insurance. Affirm with me now, I persist until I succeed. I will not quit. I will advance 1 step more. Repeat it daily until it burns into your subconscious. For every man who persists through defeat eventually discovers that defeat was but a temporary detour. Quitting turns defeat into finality. Persistence turns it into victory. The weakness of drifting enthusiasm is the downfall of the majority. They begin a venture with energy, but when faced with resistance, they falter. They call their failure bad luck or circumstance, when in truth it was their own lack of persistence. Success requires no apology, but failure permits no alibi. Persistence alone separates the two. Lincoln stands as proof. He failed in business, lost elections, suffered personal tragedy. By ordinary standards, he was defeated time after time, but he persisted. He carried within him a definite purpose, and his persistence kept it alive. At last, he rose to the presidency and fulfilled his mission of preserving the Union. Without persistence, his name would be forgotten. Adversity is the refining fire in which persistence is forged. No man develops persistence without trial. Temporary defeat is life's way of asking if you are worthy. It is the crucible in which weak desires are burned away, leaving only the strong. Those who persist grow stronger with each failure. Those who quit perish under the weight of fear. I confess, in my own journey, there were times when defeat pressed heavily upon me. I published magazines that collapsed. I faced poverty. I endured ridicule. But each time I persisted, reminding myself of Carnegie's challenge. Each time I stood again, my character hardened. Persistence kept me alive until opportunity returned. Without it, I would have been buried in obscurity. Affirm again, I persist until I succeed. I will not quit. I will advance 1 step more. Let these words march with you in moments of despair, for it is often when the night is darkest that dawn breaks. Many men quit at the very threshold of victory, failing to see that success lay just beyond the final test. Let us recall once more the devil's confession. He boasted that drifting souls fall easily into his net, but he admitted defeat against the man of persistence, for such a man cannot be broken. Temporary defeat does not dismay him. Criticism does not stop him. Fear does not sway him. The devil flees before such persistence, for it is proof of mastery. Persistence is not stubbornness without reason. It is not blind obstinacy. It is intelligent determination allied with definiteness of purpose. The persistent man adapts his plans, but he never abandons his aim. He may change methods, but never the goal. He knows that 1,000 failures are but steps on the road to final success. Consider the lives of Edison, Ford, Carnegie, and Rockefeller. Each was tested by adversity. Each faced moments when quitting would have been easy, even respectable. Yet each persisted, and because they did, they became giants. They are remembered not for their talents alone, but for their refusal to surrender. That is why their names endure. Life will not hand you riches freely. It will test you, delay you, discourage you. But each obstacle is an invitation to persist. Each setback is a signal that your purpose is worthy of pursuit. Welcome adversity, for it proves that your desire is strong enough to merit victory. The man who persists is the man who conquers. Say once more with conviction, I persist until I succeed. I will not quit. I will advance one step more. Let this affirmation become your battle cry. Carry it in your heart when others doubt you. Whisper it to yourself when defeat looms. Shout it in the silence of despair. For persistence, spoken with faith, makes even mountains bow. Endure this truth. Persistence is the final test of desire. If you abandon your aim, you never truly desired it. If you persist despite every obstacle, you prove that your desire is burning, and life will yield to that fire. Therefore persist, and riches will be yours. Fail to persist, and regret will be your only inheritance. No man ever succeeds alone. Every fortune, every empire, every invention is the result of not one mind, but many minds working in harmony toward a definite aim. This truth I have called the mastermind principle. It is the law by which two or more minds, blended in a spirit of harmony, generate a third mind of greater power. Andrew Carnegie confessed that he owed his vast fortune not to himself alone, but to his mastermind alliance of men who supplied knowledge, imagination, and faith. He was but one part of a great harmony. He selected men of ability, bound them together in cooperation, and through their united counsel, he became the master of steel. Henry Ford also proved this law. He surrounded himself with allies of genius, Edison, Firestone, and others, who met in fellowship, exchanged ideas, and lent each other faith. From their evenings together in the countryside sprang inventions, industries, and movements that changed the world. No man in that circle could have achieved alone what they accomplished together. Affirm with me, I align myself with minds of faith. I attract allies of purpose. I join with men who lift me higher. Repeat it daily, for your subconscious must accept that you are not destined to stand alone, but to draw strength from harmony. Life does not favor the solitary drifter. It crowns the man who builds alliances. Beware of wrong associations. A single negative mind can poison an entire alliance. One voice of doubt, one whisper of fear, one critic within your circle can undo months of progress. Choose your companions with the same care as you would choose a surgeon, for they will either save or destroy the life of your purpose. I have witnessed men of promise dragged down by companions of drifting minds. Their energy was sapped by envy, their faith weakened by ridicule, their plans corrupted by selfishness. But I have also seen ordinary men lifted into greatness by the company of decisive allies. Show me your friends, and I will show you your future. The mastermind principle is not a mere figure of speech. It is a spiritual law. When two or more minds harmonize, they create a third invisible force. That force is not seen, yet it is felt. It becomes the channel through which infinite intelligence communicates ideas, plans, and inspirations that no single mind could generate alone. Think of the radio. One station alone produces a single signal, but when multiple instruments combine in harmony, music emerges that stirs the soul. So too with minds. One thought is strong, but many, blended in harmony, produce a power that resonates with infinite intelligence. This law is as real as gravity, though unseen. Carnegie told me plainly that his wealth would have been impossible without his mastermind group. He did not claim genius for himself. He claimed wisdom in selecting allies. He surrounded himself with men who had knowledge he lacked, and he directed their combined power toward his definite aim. That alliance produced